Hey, guess what? Remember this? Remember when Sanjay Gupta went on Joe Rogan and he had to admit that everybody at CNN was fucking lying about ivermectin and Joe Rogan? That they couldn't beat him in a fair fight. Joe Rogan kicks their ass, gets 12 times the viewership that CNN does. And so they had to lie about him, like TYT does about this show. So they had to lie about him. Remember that? Well, guess what? The guy who's their media critic never covered that, by the way. Never admitted it. Never admitted they were lying about Joe Rogan, their entire network, and lying about ivermectin. Well, guess what? They finally fired that guy. So that guy, their media critic... So that's the irony is he hosts a show on CNN. It was called Reliable Sources. And the guy who hosted that show before him, they had to fire him because he filed one too many stories that were unreliable. And then they hired this fucking guy. That guy. And so now they're firing him. And why do you think they're really firing him? But do you know, by the way, he had the longest running show on CNN? Mm-mm. He hosted that show for the past 9 years, which is the longest running show on CNN. A 9-year show. You think they would have a couple of more longer running shows than that? I bet you Anthony Bourdain, if he didn't kill himself, that's what they say he did. Anyway, I like this guy. What this guy says, oh, it's too small. You can't. I'll read it for you. He says, there are times in life when it feels like it's hopeless, like you won't ever get there. Like the mountain is too steep to climb. In those times, I want you to remember, for 9 years, a quasi-sentient potato had his own show on CNN. Don't you ever give up. Anything is possible. Don't you ever give up. Anything is possible. So the reason why this is extra funny to me is because Brian Stelter is getting fired. Why? Because of low ratings, right? The CNN's ratings have tanked since Trump, as predicted by Ted Koppel. But what's funny here is to watch Brian Stelter. Now, he's the media critic, and he's going to pretend that a fundamental law of media doesn't exist. Watch this.
If ratings are up, that means what?
The ratings are up. It means you can't do without Donald Trump. You would be lost without Donald Trump.
Well, that is what he says. Ted, you know that's not true.
CNN.
Ted, you know that's not true. We would be fine without Donald Trump, except we're not. Look up what the ratings are for CNN since Trump.
His ratings would be in the toilet without Donald Trump.
You know that's not true. You're...
Now he's at a room. Now this is in a room full of media people at a media center at some college. So they're not just random people off the street. These are all academics who are coming to watch a bunch of eggheads talk about shit. And they're all laughing at Brian Stelter, at his transparent bullshit that Trump doesn't matter for CNN's ratings. So let's play from the top.
If ratings are up, that means what?
The ratings are up. It means you can't do without Donald Trump. You would be lost without Donald Trump.
Well, that is what he says. Ted, you know that's not true.
CNN's ratings would be in the toilet without Donald Trump.
You know that's not true.
Everyone knows that's true. That's why they're laughing.
You've lived through enough presidencies to know there will be more presidents.
What were the ratings before Trump and what are the ratings now?
I would say we might be up 20, we might be up 30%, we might be up 40%. If we go back down 40%, that's okay too.
Well, it may not be okay.
Of course it is. No, but hold on.
A whole room full of people just laughed in the media critic's face from CNN. He said it that if we go down 40% in ratings after Trump, that's okay too. And he says, I don't think it'd be okay with your boss. And everyone laughed because they know if that happens, everyone's getting fired. Guess what? Everyone's getting fired. Guess who just got fired?
They lost nearly 50% of its target audience during primetime hours since Trump left.
So it went down 50%. And I guess that's not okay because that guy just got fired. So what Ted Koppel was saying was the truth. And what this guy was saying is complete propaganda. And he was doing that at the behest of $1 billion media company.
I reject the premise that these networks are making so much money off of Trump and thus we benefit from it.
He rejects that premise. The thing that's obvious to everybody in the world. And of course, that's the guy CNN hired to be their media critic. A guy who couldn't find his own ass with both hands and a flashlight. Are you kidding me?
Could you imagine sucking up to the mainstream media that hard, CNN that hard, and you still get fired?
Isn't that something? It's like when Nina Turner sucks up to the Democratic Party and they still and the progressives still endorse her corporate opponent. So here we go. Among those publicly joining in. So here's the real reason why he got fired. It's ratings, but another real reason, and I bet this had a lot to do with it, was that there's a big investor in CNN. His name is John Malone. And he's one of the big stakeholders in Warner Discovery, which is the new company that owns CNN. And during an episode in February, Stelter cited Malone more than a dozen times in coverage of the Discovery deal for CNN and its sister properties, expressing some concern about the investor's influence. I guess Brian Stelter now knows the extent of that investor's influence. Because Brian Stelter has been fired from the cush job of all cush jobs, a pretend media critic at CNN, the least trusted name in news. By the way, so this is according to the NPR article. It said Stelter also covered CNN's shortcomings, but was seen as a loyal team player under four. Really? They're trying to make it out like, oh, he told the truth, but he was still even though he told the truth about CNN, he never told the truth about CNN. NPR, another bullshit news organization. They're 100% propaganda for the Democratic establishment. That's what NPR is. As Stelter later conceded, he was slow to recognize the depth of ethical problems posed by former CNN star. He was slow to recognize, or he ignored them and tried to dismiss them. So do you see how NPR writes this? This is all tribal. NPR is writing this because they don't want the Trumpers to win. That's why they're doing this. They're writing this as if Brian Stelter was a principled newsman, which he was not and is not. He's a propagandist, just like the person who wrote this from NPR. Who's the person who wrote this at NPR? David Folkenflik. David Folkenflik. Super cordial guy, super polite, 100% propagandist. And that's why he has a job at NPR, and that's why he wrote this bullshit article pretending that Brian Stelter actually does a good job. I mean, a whole room full of people laugh at him when he talks about the media. A room full of educated people laugh at him. One of the the grandfather of nighttime news, Ted Koppel, humiliated him in front of a room full of people. David Folkenflik thinks Brian Stelter does a good job. That's your NPR reporting. And that's why David Folkenflik will have a job forever in establishment media, because he's willing to tell the lies that make the establishment media look good. He was slow to recognize. He was so slow to recognize this, Mr. NPR, that an establishment shill like Stephen Colbert had to call him out. And there's no bigger shill for the establishment than Stephen Colbert. And even he had to call him out. Watch this.
And the New York Times has just reported, a report just dropped because it had been alleged that he was helping his brother with his communications team. New York Times is reporting that that's true. Chris was helping his brother. Has that created any conflict over at CNN behind closed doors? Are people mad at him, or is he in trouble?
Some people are mad at him. By the way, I can confirm the New York Times report. I'll confirm it for your viewers. I also have a source that says Chris was on the phone with his brother this week.
Is your source Chris Cuomo?
He is not. He is not. You got to have boundaries. You got to draw a line.
Why? He doesn't.
I think he does, actually.
Really?
Wow.
So even Stephen Colbert can call this guy. Why do you got to have standards? Chris Cuomo doesn't. And then he said, yes, he does. First of all, what I don't understand is why is Stephen Colbert sitting at the same height as his guest? They never do that. They're always about a foot taller than their guest. They have their chairs propped up. I wonder why he's doing that. Isn't that weird? Anyway, so that's what.
Boundaries. You got to draw a line.
Why? He doesn't.
I think he does, actually.
Again, there's another room full of people laughing in his fucking face. Another room full of people. They weren't screened to be CNN haters. In fact, they love CNN because they're coming to the Stephen Colbert show, and he's an establishment shill tool. And so they probably love this guy, and even they can't help but laugh in his face. But NPR David Folkenflik is going to tell you what a great job he did.
I think Chris does. I don't know about the governor.
What are the boundaries?
I think Chris does.
What are the boundaries?
The boundary that CNN management presented to him in May when they admitted he screwed up. They said, you know, what you did was inappropriate.
He screwed up. Oh, you mean he put the wrong plug in the wrong hole? Or he consciously did something that was 100% unethical and kept doing it? That's what you mean, like that? Oh, he screwed up. Ah, whoopsie. I dropped my drink and I spilled it on my white carpet. That's what they want you to think it. That's what, you see how David Folkenflik, that's how he would have reported this too if he worked for CNN, but he works for NPR, so he lets this guy report it like this uncritically.
On the phone with your brother's aides, advising them on what to do, and that was inappropriate. But they said, of course you're going to talk to your brother. You know, there's nothing more important.
But he didn't talk about his brother once the trouble started. He said, I'm not going to talk about my brother.
And that was also a management ruling. And so the way
why didn't they rule that way when his brother was on the show pretty much every night?
That's right.
During the COVID crisis.
I think it's really complicated.
That seems like an odd conflict of rules.
When frickin' Stephen Colbert is calling you out on national television for your horrible, unethical ways of your news station, he's still going to defend it. Watch this.
It is an odd conflict, but I don't think if we open up the journalism ethics book, there's no page for this. It's the
Yes, there is a page for it. It's you don't do conflicts of interests. That's what the page is. You don't let the brother of a powerful governor who's under investigation do interviews with him on television as if you're covering the story. We all know that you don't do that. In fact, there was already a rule at CNN that forbid Chris Cuomo from interviewing his brother, the governor, and they broke that rule on purpose. Why? For ratings. He knows that, but here he is lying.
Craziest set of circumstances you can imagine, right? A governor and a brother, both in these high-profile jobs.
Yeah, it doesn't take a genius to figure out what you ought to do in that situation. You don't let the brother interview his fucking brother about serious shit. That's what you don't do. And CNN already knew that, but they let him do it anyway because of money. And then they bring out this potato to come out and lie about it. And make you think it's okay. But even Stephen Colbert wouldn't let that shit go past him. So, and then here's another guy from NPR. This is their TV critic. You ready? At a time when viewers have never needed more help understanding and unraveling media, CNN canceled its 30-year-old media analysis show, Reliable Sources, and let go chief media correspondent host Brian Stelter. Sad. And then he says, get the scoop from David Folkenflik.
I mean, it really feels like, I mean, I don't know. We lost Stelter.
Bring him on.
We lost Stelter, we lost Cheney, we lost Cuomo. It really feels like democracy, American democracy is dying these days.
We lost Zucker. We lost Cuomo. We lost Stelter. We're soon to lose Don Lemon. I wonder if we're gonna lose Anderson Cooper. Who's gonna put on a T-shirt and report from an earthquake?
Hey, at least for Brian Stelter, I hear the Babylon Bee and the Onion, they're hiring super funny fake news, people who can create funny fake news stories. So I think he'd fit in great there.
Do you want to see some more great so these people at NPR, maybe you'd like to see some more stellar reporting from him. Here he is. I think they share an agent, because watch how he reports the Jussie Smollett thing. I think they have the same agent. And if they don't, I don't understand why he would report it this way, but he reported it like Cenk Uygur did too. They all pretended that it wasn't clear what happened with Jussie Smollett, and maybe he's a victim, maybe, I don't know. Like they tried to pretend. And so I think they all have the same agent. And so let's watch this.
From Fox, but this is a key part of the story, Nia, because I do think he just wants to get back to work. That's what a friend of Smollett just said to me. He wants to act. He wants to get back to work. He had actually been taken off 2 of the episodes of Empire. His future as a Hollywood actor has been in limbo for the past few weeks.
So he's reporting this as like, oh, Jussie Smollett doesn't want this headache. He just wants to get back to work, and everybody else is creating this firestorm of drama that he doesn't want any part of. He's just a hardworking guy. He puts his head down and keeps working. That's how he's reporting this.
His lawyers have been trying to get to this point so that he can return to work. So far, no comment from the network, but I do think we will see Smollett get back to work because the narrative has once again changed from victim, to villain, back to victim.
No, it didn't. It didn't change back to victim. It went from victim immediately to villain, and it never stopped. Jussie Smollett is the villain in this situation. He made up a bullshit story to try to promote his acting career as being a victim of a racist attack that never happened. He set it up. He paid the guys. We got the information. We've got the receipts, as they say at TYT. Why would he? So there's some more bad reporting from him.
It's been very confusing, as Ryan was saying.
It's been very confusing. It's not confusing. Everybody knew exactly what happened when he was saying this.
People don't know what to believe, and
people do know
never
what to
really
believe.
know what happened on the street that night in Chicago.
No, people know what to believe, and people know what happened on the street. But they have media tools like this guy who's doing the bidding of the establishment, and for some reason, somebody inside the establishment, maybe it was his agent, maybe it was his manager, told him, "Hey, this guy is. We got to do a favor for this guy because of this other favor that we." And that's what happened. And here he is getting, I don't want to show this. So people were responding to NPR's story that I showed you. It says, so maybe both sidesing every damn thing, not calling lies lies, and being dismissive of feedback is not a winning strategy. I have a ha and another ha, and yet another ha. I like how you said that, Portia. Here, here's what gets him in trouble. I went to Brian Stelter's Twitter feed to see how his fans are reacting. Watch how his fans react to him saying something true. He tweeted this out. Now, when did he tweet this out?
May 4th, 2021.
On May 4th, 2021. Last month, I used the phrase pandemic addicts, inspired by this guy, Yashar. He says, some said it was a straw man. No one's addicted to the pandemic, they said. Well, this guy here has documented it. The liberals who can't quit lockdown. And then he shares this guy's story in the Atlantic, and it's called The Liberals Who Can't Quit Lockdown. Progressive communities have been home to some of the fiercest battles over COVID-19 policies, and some liberal policymakers have left scientific evidence on the wayside. So he tweeted that out. And then, so he just tweets that out, this article, and underneath, people say, I don't know if you can see it, it says, absurdity. This person says that this is an absurdity. And then the next person says, if I was following you, this is an unfollow moment. That's what CNN views. So if you have another opinion, that's it. You know what this is called? This is called cult-like thinking. So, and that's the Democratic Party, and that's the COVIDians. You're not, if you have a thought that strays from the cult, you are kicked out of the cult. I've been kicked out of the cult. My Hollywood friends don't talk to me anymore because I've been kicked out of the cult over COVID and vaccines because I told the truth that they were too big of pussies to talk about or even ask questions about. And this is what happens to you at CNN. If you even have a different idea that strays from the approved ideas of the cult, they immediately unfollow you. Down here it says, just unfollowed. Boom, boom, 2 in a row. That's what happens to you at CNN if you actually tell the truth about something or have a different idea, even if it's not true. You're not allowed. Here's my favorite. He says, we have no idea what the long-term effects of COVID are, and my 1 and 3-year-old kids can't get a vaccine yet. I think I can't wait to... He's upset that his 1 and 3-year-old kids can't get a vaccine.
Stelter fired his nanny for not getting the vaccine, by the way. Yeah.
Wow. That's who Brian Stelter is. And this is the community he's cultivated. These people didn't come out of nowhere. They got these ideas from CNN. They became this cult-like thinking from CNN. This you're either with us or against us type thinking. You know who used to do that? That used to be right-wing crazies that thought like that, like George Bush and Dick Cheney. You're either with us or against us. Now that's how the CNN, MSNBC, and everybody who votes for Joe Biden thinks. You're either with us or against us. That kind of tribal thinking is bad for a culture and a country. And of course, that's what's featured on CNN. And this is the audience they've cultivated. People who scream that they want to vaccinate their 1-year-old from a fucking virus.
Judging by the looks of Chris Cuomo's post CNN career, though, he's this Stelter guy. He could probably set up a YouTube channel. It's going to go really well for him. I saw Cuomo's last interview with Alec Baldwin, of all people, got 300 views. So he's
no.
He's doing well. The last video he posted a clip from his Alec Baldwin interview, 400 views.
Chris Cuomo's YouTube channel?
Yeah, his most recent video he posted, 400 views.
What does he call that?
I don't even want to say it on air.
Just go ahead, say it, because I can't find it if you don't say it.
Cuomo Project.
Chris Cuomo Project.
Oh, I thought it was Fredo Project.
I thought it was free. That's good. He's got 33,000 subscribers. Let's see his last video.
Oh.
His last video was everybody who was so you're wrong, Jackson. It has 356 views.
Oh.
And then did Alec Baldwin pull the trigger? He dropped that 2 days ago. It's 1 minute and 30 seconds long. He got 2,800 views. That's who wants to hear Chris Cuomo. That's how many people actually want to hear him. 3,000 people. That's it. Are we repeating the same mistake as AIDS with monkeypox? That's another one of his. 2,700 views. Alec Baldwin, FBI. It's just no one wants to see him.
Out of all people he could interview, why would Chris Cuomo interview Alec Baldwin?
I think because he thought it would get ratings, I bet.
Do you think he asked him about Epstein?
I don't think he asked him about Epstein. I bet he didn't ask him about Epstein. You're right. That's a great point, Steph. I'm sure he didn't ask him about Epstein.
He also interviewed another liberal favorite nowadays, Noam Chomsky.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Did they jerk off together over starving unvaccinated people?
How they're gonna, isolate the unvaccinated population,
starve them. Yeah. So there's your Brian Stelter. That's your big, your reliable sources guy. 100% full of shit, and so is NPR. All right, and now you know why I have a show and why more people are going to see this video than ever read anything by David Folkenflik or Brian Stelter. Because I'll tell the truth, and they're paid fucking propagandists. That's the difference. Hey, we're coming to Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Detroit, Los Angeles, Spokane, Tacoma, Denver. Go to JimmyDoreComedy.com for a link for all our tickets for all our live shows. See you there.